topic that, again, my pal from the Take 3 Wrestling podcast, Ernest Christian, he and his crew had kind of tackled this a little while back, and it's been one of these things like I've had on like the potential topic list for a little while, but it kind of feels somewhat appropriate given that the Wednesday Night Wars may not be warring for much longer. And it's kind of looking at, because like obviously, again, every Thursday wrestling Twitter gets blown up with talk about ratings and demo gods and COVID gods and who beat us and who won in the 18 to 34 and this and that. But like the Attitude Era / Monday Night Wars versus now, and like there's obviously so many different layers to it, but like for me, I kind of go, well, what type of fan are you? Are you looking more for like entertainment, shock value, this feeling of what the hell can happen next? Or are you looking for great wrestling? Because if you're looking for great wrestling, don't watch the Attitude Era. Like if you go back and watch some Nitros and some Raws from like the glory years, like I went and I found, like I looked up what like the highest rated Raw in history was, and I forget the date of it. But like I went back and watched that show, and like the storylines were wild, and it was, signs all over the crowd and, promos here and promos there. But like I think there was like 3 matches on the show for like a grand total of about 7 minutes. Like there wasn't great wrestling.
What was like the main event that night?
I couldn't remember.
It was the May 10th, 1999 edition of Monday Night Raw. It's the only one to ever break the 8.0 mark. The main event was a 6-man tag. It was Triple H, The Undertaker, and Shane McMahon versus Vince McMahon, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and The Rock.
Let's hear it, Jim.
The best in the world.
This is my last episode.
Shane McMahon!
Matt, what further proof do you need? Anyway, sorry, it was those 3 versus who? Uh-oh, Tim forgot.
What now?
It was it was those 3 versus who?
Oh, Vince McMahon, Stone Cold, and The Rock.
It sounds like it's 7 stars in Japan.
Now, can I tell you what the second highest rated Raw of all time is?
Sure.
May 1st, 2000. What's the main event? The Rock in a steel cage match for the WWF Championship against Shane McMahon.
The best in the world.
Oh, man.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
Shane McMahon.
My work here is done.
When I was unpacking in this new house and I pulled the Shane McMahon WrestleMania jersey that I got as a Christmas gift out.
There's a space on the wall right
I was going to
next
say,
the
shadow
Xbox.
box that motherfucker.
I already sent it away to get framed.
There you go.
There's going to be 8x10s under it. I got some of the dollars that flew at WrestleMania. It's going to be a whole thing. But it was either that or throw it right in the garbage. But since it was a gift, I had to keep it. So might as well frame it.
Thing sucks.
That's fantastic that Shane McMahon main evented the 2 highest rated Raws of all time. But yeah, like the shows from a wrestling standpoint were not good. Like characters, there was obviously, I think, a ton more characters than there was now. There was obviously more what the hell's going to happen next. But, if you're talking quality of show, again, it depends how you view quality. Ryan.
Man, no, I mean, it's not even a question right now because Wednesday night is not must-see TV. You don't go to school the next day, and you don't have people saying, "Oh, did you see what happened on Dynamite last?" You had to watch Raw because you were in high school or in middle school, and like that was the thing to. It was very popular to watch pro wrestling. It's just not as popular as it is, and you can thank the internet, you can thank kayfabe, you can thank DVR, so you don't have to watch it live. There's a plethora of reasons, but it's not even in the same comparison. War to war, Monday night to Wednesday night, it's a non-factor. Absolutely, you had to watch, and you just wore that freaking back button off.
Oh, yeah.
You had to.
Yeah, we bought new remotes because eventually the back button doesn't work anymore.
Right.
And mom and dad get pissed because like when they want to go from CBS News to NBC News, they can't do it. You know,
Right. I didn't watch any wrestling last night, but still consumed AEW and NXT before tonight.
And Ryan, I totally agree with you 100%. Like, it is not must see TV. Now, is it must see for wrestling fans? Maybe, but larger than life characters have kind of disappeared in professional wrestling. They had a lot of like superheroes almost. So the anti-hero was Stone Cold, and it was must see. Everybody wanted to see it. Now, Jim, I'm going to disagree with you with all of the wrestling was bad during the Monday Night Wars because the cruiserweight division paved the way for a lot of what wrestling is today. So we have to give that a little bit of a shout out. Obviously, it didn't do the numbers of like Goldberg just spearing someone. That was cool back then. That was destruction.
Sure.
It was new. You know what I mean? And now we don't like that. We don't like squash matches. We don't want to see that. So it's times have changed. But again, there is no water cooler talk now. Like you go elementary school. I was in elementary school during the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars, and that's all we talked about, right? In high school, I stopped watching wrestling, and I don't think I knew 4 people total who watched pro wrestling. It just became, it was hot, and then it wasn't. And is it building back up? Yeah, but it's a very niche market. Again, it goes back to the megastar thing. Pro wrestling will never get 8 million views because megastars really don't exist.
Well, and again, it's TV viewership is so different. I mean, even look at Monday Night Football. If everybody wants to talk about ratings, like this year's doubleheader Monday Night Football compared to last year was down 27%. Now, does that necessarily mean that 27% of people that watched Monday Night Football last year on opening night doubleheader didn't watch it this year? No, there's also a lot of different ways to do it. I think a lot of people
are smarter. People are streaming. People are cutting cords and streaming.
Exactly. People are cutting cords. People are just finding streams online. People are doing things like YouTube TV and Hulu Live and stuff like that. So you don't necessarily have to be a traditional Nielsen house to view your product. And you know, for me, and I've said it before, like, yeah, if I miss like a week's worth of shows and it just kind of slips through my fingers, I'm not necessarily gonna go back and feel like I have to watch all 2 hours of NXT. I have to watch all 2 hours of Dynamite. One thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna head to either WWE or AEW's Twitter page or their YouTube channel. And I'm gonna find the 3-minute clip that they put up of certain segments, and I'm gonna watch those because that or I'm gonna wait till next week and they're gonna show me what happened last week. Because that happens as well.
You got to think. So say Roman Reigns turning heel, lining with Paul Heyman gets 2 million views. Maybe some of it's rewatched, right? But most of it's people who didn't watch the show.
Yeah.
So you got to think on the grandest scale. Let's say half the people went there because they didn't see the show. And SmackDown draws a 2 million rating, right? They had 2 million viewers and then 2 million YouTube views, right? Well, let's say 1 million of them haven't seen the show. Well, there's 3 million right there that are still keeping up with the product. They're just not watching live.
Yeah, I mean every single and like that was the point we used to make. Like when people get really hung up on Raw ratings, stuff like that, I'm like, you have to go to YouTube and check. Like, you know, like the Bobby Lashley and Lana wedding did like 3 million views in 2 days. Like, was it garbage? Sure. But why were they hammering that storyline? Because people were watching it. If you watch it on YouTube, that's money. You people watch it on Facebook, that's money. All of that's rolling into WWE's pocket, same as those TV contracts. So like, it's a different ball game. Matt, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, thinking back to the wars, I mean, like you guys said, I would watch WWE, but the TV upstairs would be filming WCW, which I would then watch in the morning, you know, on the VHS tape. Wonder if I still have those. But you know, there doesn't seem to be the urgency these days, and that is just because it's so much easier to just catch up on clips if you really want to know the product. So it is kind of a disservice to just look at ratings because of that. I mean, I DVR both. I don't watch either NXT or AEW live, but I do catch up on them, you know, so I can fast forward through everything. You know, having a 1-year-old unpacking this house, like I don't have time to just sit and watch TV as much as I would like to. So, you know, that gives me that freedom to do that. So does that count in the ratings? Probably not, but I am still watching both.
Yeah, it's you know, it's all it's consumed in like last night. I didn't flip back. I watched NXT. Actually, watched NXT live last week because I thought maybe they're gonna start off the show with the Regal announcements, and I'm not even sure we got 2 Regal announcements. I know there was one, but I don't recall the second one unless that was the women's battle royal. But like that wasn't like designated as from the desk of William Regal. It was. But then immediately when NXT was over, I flipped over. I actually fast forwarded to the main event match because everybody was talking about it. And then I went back and watched the rest of it from the beginning, finished it this morning because I was just like, all right, I'm going to bed, you know, stop it halfway through and finish watching it. So like, yeah, it's all, it's consumed in just so many different ways. Intern Mark, your thoughts?
Yeah, I find myself, well, I have a cut the cord. I have a super box, so there's no way for them really to track what I'm watching, I guess. But I don't usually watch AEW live, and then I kind of fast forward sometimes through NXT. Same thing with Monday Night Raw and even SmackDown. It's just to sit there and watch Raw for 3 hours or SmackDown for 2 hours gets to be a little too much. So I skip through it. I'll watch some matches, and there's other things I really have no interest in. But yeah, the way people consume television products anymore, TV shows and whatnot, is completely changed since the Attitude Era. So I don't know. It's kind of tough to compare the two nowadays versus, you know, even early 2000s.
I mean, sorry to like cut anyone off, but to go back to that, I mean, during the Raw Attitude Era, we got 6 hours of wrestling on TV, 7 if you count Sunday Night Heat, and 6 of those hours happened simultaneously. So it wasn't,
Right.
you know, 9-10 hours of wrestling on TV. You know, if you're watching Impact 11, 12, however long that show is, 13. But, you know, like there wasn't all this wrestling to consume in a week. You had 6 hours on Mondays and an hour on Sunday.
Can we just be honest too? Does anybody like, and we're wrestling fans, right?
Right.
We invest money in wrestling. Does anybody look at the clock Monday and go, man, I can't wait for Raw tonight?
I mean, it depends if they make some sort of announcement beforehand.
But
like
they need, yeah, but
but
like, when
otherwise,
like for real though, like
yeah,
I'm excited about SmackDown and stuff because there's new stuff going on. The Fiend, Alexa, like there's so many stories going on over there. But like, I don't remember the last time I sat there and like I remember being in school and looking at the clock. Like I cannot wait till I'm done my homework to watch pro wrestling tonight. And I just don't think they have that. And then maybe it's because I'm older and again, like kids and work and wife and everything kind of takes away from that. But at the same time, that should make me want to watch wrestling even more to escape. And
Right.
they're just not giving me that. Come watch us.
Well, I remember flipping out on my parents one time because like they had a meeting at church or something, and like I missed the first 10 minutes of Monday Night Raw, and I yelled at my parents like, you know, I gotta watch. You know, I've got to start right when the show starts. The best stuff happens to start the show. Like I was like yelling at my parents in junior high, like because I missed
Punching the dog.
yeah, kicking him down the stairs. Like, you know, but now, it's like, oh, if I miss the opening segment or whatever, I'll start on DVR, fast forward or whatever.
On YouTube. Yeah, I had a neighbor tape Raw for me one time because I was going to be out of town and wouldn't be able to watch it. So like it was important back in middle high school for sure.
Yeah, and I think all of that just is because of the way that we consume things. I mean, for me, if
But
I
you're
don't,
still excited to watch other things. Like I'm excited when Peaky Blinders comes to Netflix. I was excited for Game of Thrones until season 8. I used to be excited for The Walk. Like you're excited to watch these shows. People still watch television shows. And at the end of the day, this is an entertainment business. And 80% of the time, let's say Monday Night Raw doesn't make you want to watch or doesn't have you on the edge of your seat. There's no cliffhangers. It's just the show ends and it's like, all right, Seth Rollins versus Dominic for the 14th time next week. Like Dominic's running the 2K universe mode. Like I just don't get it because I still love watching TV and shows suck me in and you can't wait for next week. And I haven't felt that way about SmackDown's been a little different recently, but I haven't felt that way about Monday Night Raw, NXT, AEW for a long time.
For a while, and Tim, well, I'll jump to you then. I usually watch Raw live and I'll tweet with it, but like AEW, NXT, I'll catch one of them live or slight delay, but like SmackDown, I'll usually catch it over the weekend on Hulu because it's on there. It's like an hour and 10 minutes. Like it's so easy. There's no commercials, any of that. So like, for me last week, I'd watched SmackDown as it aired and it got to like 9:45 and I was like, wow, this show's almost over. Like and I think that part of the reason why Raw isn't that I got to watch this is because of that 3-hour mark. Like because
NXT and AEW are too, and it just doesn't.
They are, but I feel like that third hour. I really like.
Oh yeah.
If Raw was 2 hours, I feel like the need to compact things and hit that 2-hour mark the way AEW or NXT or SmackDown is. Like I think that would make everything they do feel a little bit more important. Like and not that certain matches aren't good or certain stories aren't good, but like you may not get a 3-segment banger between Bobby Lashley and Apollo Crews. I'm just throwing 2 names out.
But like the storytelling aspect, right? Lucha Underground nailed that because they would make you want to watch the next week because they realized it was entertainment and it was a television show. I think where wrestling is going wrong right now is it's tiptoeing the line. Do they want to be sports or do they want to be entertainment? And they can't find a happy medium because if you're sports and the sport's good, I watch the Eagles every week, no matter how bad they played the week before because I'm excited, right? But you want to tiptoe that line, or do you want to be an entertainment industry where you have people on the edge of your seats? We're both 0-1, Jim. We're both 0-1. But you get what I'm saying? It's like they haven't had an identity, and I think that's causing like what's happening. It's like, do you want to be sports or do you want to be a television show?
Fair point.
I think you walk a really tight line with that. Like you had said about Dominic versus Seth Rollins for the 14th time. You have a story to tell. And I don't want to just see 2 wrestlers wrestle for the sake of it. But sometimes I just want to see 2 wrestlers wrestle for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Hangman Page and Frankie Kazarian.
That was
yesterday.
amazing.
That was a real good match.
Great
Yeah.
match. Might have been the best match of Dynamite last night, other than maybe Thunder Rosa. I'm just so hot on that right now. But you get the same thing over and over and over and over. And then you get the little nuances within those Raw stories. Rey Mysterio's daughter and Murphy, and their like quick little shared moment. Like there's a lot going on there. But I'm sick of if I don't see Dominic for a month on my TV, I'm fine with that.
Here's the
And it's
thing,
tough.
though.
Maybe
Don't
we're
you
still
think?
kind of at the end of COVID, and that's making it tough for their roster. But
Yeah, but sorry
I
to
don't
cut you
know.
off though. But like, don't you
That's fine.
think if they end it, even end the brand split, right? And people could go to different shows, right? But they focused on different characters. Like you don't have to see Seth Rollins on Raw all the time. He can miss a Raw and he could still have a story going. Like on television, The Walking Dead, you knew Rick Grimes was the leader, but some episodes were about Bob. And it's like, okay, there's story progression. And, and then you can like go back to it. And it's like, man, I really can't wait till we find out what happens with Seth. Like it's just
Right. I agree.
you could bounce back and forth and make people want to watch. Like, I want to see SmackDown because I want to see what Sasha has to say about the attack. I want to see where it leads. There's a story there, right? She was off for a couple weeks. She didn't get attacked and go, "Hey, I'm back." You know, there was a slow burn.
Right.
I still hope that she's
I think-
that she's at home and her addressing
I hope
Bailey's
so.
from home. She should
I
not
hope
be
so.
at the Thunderdome this week. But like,
I think the Alexa Bliss story is great over there with
Mhm.
with her Fiend. You know, with the Fiend, we don't see it every week. It's in a tag match. We start seeing it a little. I mean, I think they're
That's
doing
beautiful,
things
yeah.
so right on SmackDown that they could definitely take a page out of that and do it on Raw.
But I do think that 3 hours versus 2 hours. If Raw went to 2 hours, I think that some like not necessarily that it would be must see TV every week, because I don't think that would be the case. But I do think that some of the fatigue that we get wouldn't be as prominent, because you can't put everything on every week if it's only 2 hours. Tim.
A lot of great points made from everyone on the panel, and I think one of the big points is what Ant said is like they're having a hard time differentiating between showcasing wrestling as sport and wrestling as entertainment, and unfortunately, it has to do both. It can't just do one or the other, which can make telling a story over a 2 to 3 hour period quite complicated. Raw doesn't do it so well. SmackDown does it very well. Is that because Fox is very hands-on with the SmackDown product and exactly what they want? And they want a entertainment show, and why Raw just got to re-up and it's like, okay, same old stuff as always. Crash Television doesn't matter, just whatever, just put it on there because you're the staple of the USA Network.
USA's
and
like,
you
yeah,
can-
Monday,
you're
good,
the highest-
good. Silk
you're-
stockings after, gotcha.
highest rated show on USA every year for the last infinity years. It's tough to do, and like if it were easy, like they would have something. But
They've
unfortunately,
done it before. That's why we're confused as wrestling fans. They've done the Attitude Era, horrible wrestling, right? And but you could still tell these great stories and just have better matches, and then you could combine the two.
right? But that was back. There was a brand split, but also like, and I hate to give Vince Russo his credit, but what made Vince Russo so great was the fact that he gave something to everyone.
Well, that's but
Everyone.
can you believe that TV writers are writing this show? Because like they actually they're not wrestling fans, most of them. They're television writers, right?
Right.
And so they're trying the entertainment thing, but they just aren't hiring the right people, I guess. I don't
right.
I just don't know.
Yeah.
There's
And again, like it boils down, and it's said all the time, and it's almost to the point where it's just like beating a dead horse, but like everything filters through one filter, Vince McMahon. And no matter how great somebody writes something, or how something could be presented, if Vince has a stick in his craw and he just doesn't like it, ain't happening.
Yeah.
does it involve farts? Like,
Get the
yeah,
same-
Vince.
You end up getting the same old. And like when Russo was in control, Russo was writing the stuff because Vince was like, we need a new attitude. And blah, 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 blah. And Vince Russo is writing Crash Television, and everybody who's on television has a storyline that carries over to SmackDown and then comes back to Raw. Like that was great. And I think when Heyman was running Raw, we kind of got some of that.
I agree.
And,
Yeah.
And it's like
He was trying at least.
and they got
Why-
away from that.
Why does it seem to work so well in things like NXT then, where you can have gimmicky things like
Oh.
Fandango, and you can have the foreigner bad guys in Imperium and the cool bad guys in like Undisputed Era. It works so well, and they're not flipping the script or doing anything different that's not already been done in the WWE for years.
Let's take the Ciampa Gargano feud for instance. Ciampa was an amazing heel. And it's the same story that we've seen for 30 years in wrestling. Tag team partner turns, but it's what they let Ciampa do. It wasn't having him there every week. It was presenting him differently. It wasn't hey, and I love the Hurt Business. I think it's the best part of Raw, but it's like you get 6 segments and it's like, why are they getting 6 segments? And I love them, but Mustafa Ali's not getting any. And like, you have other people that people are interested in that you could put on. And NXT does that perfectly because they won't have Adam Cole on one week. And it makes you want to watch because Adam Cole's on next week.
Yeah, it's like Charlie said in the comments. He said last week he had skipped Raw, watched Cobra Kai, didn't miss a thing. He said he was totally fine with it. And he said he doesn't have, NXT doesn't have Cole or Rhea on some weeks. So it's a little more special when they're on. But again, like but then when you get, and I get it's one extreme to another, but when you have a part-time champion in Brock Lesnar, then everybody's mad because the belt's not on, it's being disrespected. So I think there's a degree of middle ground that kind of needs to be found of like, we don't need to see this match every week for 7 straight weeks. But we also don't need somebody missing for like 2.5 months. Like there needs to be some form of balance, and they have the roster to do it. And I get that right now during, in these trying times, if you have to, and we've talked about it. Like if you want to unify the tag titles, if you want to unify the Intercontinental and U.S. title, if you want to unify the women's titles, just because you're like, look, here's the deal. We got some people that aren't going to be on TV because the world's a bag of shit right now. So we're just going to kind of do away with this until we can all go back and play nicely again, back in the real world. Like, just, steer into the skid as opposed to like, because I think and don't I love the Street Profits and Viking Raiders, like all those, the golf course and all of that, like the mini golf thing and stuff that they were doing. But like, then there came a point where it's like, oh, I'm watching Street Profits versus Andrade and Angel Garza for, this is 2.5 months now. And they were good every time they went out and did it because they're great at what they do. But like, there's got to be another tag team in there. There has to be. Like, give me one other tag team, please.
Yeah, but the problem is the stories aren't being told in the ring like they used to be. Not even like they used to be, because New Japan does a great, like, Okada Omega just felt huge every time because we knew the story that Kenny couldn't beat Okada, and then Okada was trying to not get hit with the One-Winged Angel because nobody's ever kicked out of that. So there was a story that they told in the ring that made you excited. I just don't think that WWE is telling stories in the ring. I loved Rollins versus Mysterio this week. I thought it was excellent in the steel cage. I think they haven't had a bad match yet, but it's the repetitiveness.
Yeah.
And there's a side story being told with Buddy and Seth, but like now you're just using Dominic to get there. And it's like, can't Seth do this with someone else? Because it's been Seth versus Mysterio for 5 months now.
Right.
The main problem with it and why we see success in shows like NXT, AEW is because of the saturation of the roster. Like, they have so many people on Raw, on SmackDown. Like, did they have this many people in the Attitude Era? They might have, but it doesn't feel like it to me, like thinking back to those storylines. And so it's just like they feel like they have to just keep going to this well. But then, we should include these people. So here they are, just one random episode with no rhyme or reason to it, just because they keep seeing these people succeed in different companies. And they're like, hey, and this is being the problem of Vince. Like, I want that guy, bring him to WWE. We'll find a way to fit him in.
EC3 is the perfect example. EC3 is the perfect example. They had him look in a mirror. The best promo guy at the time, they had just staring in the mirror, not talking.
And so that's why I feel like NXT and AEW can do these things, because they don't have such a big roster. They can, pick and choose where they want these storylines to go. And if someone misses a week, well, hey, you know, they miss a week, but you know, we have these other people that we want to focus on this week. Whereas WWE has all these people and they're just like, we'll get to you. But you know, we want to see Seth versus Dominic again, because that's really like, we've got something with this, even though they don't some weeks.
Tim.
And tying it back to like the conversation piece of like the comparison and the contrasting of like the Monday Night War versus the Wednesday Night Wars and like the current eras, WWE right now is paying for all of the reward that they reaped from ending the Monday Night War. For so long, WWE was the only game in town. So they had a monopoly on all of the talent. And when you have all of the talent, you can't focus, you can't make all of the talent be in the spot that they were. Like even back when WCW had just closed, like Booker T was a main event guy in WCW, and then like they made him a main event guy for the beginning of the invasion, and then down in a tag team with Goldust, and like hovering in that mid-card Intercontinental title, United States title, until the end of his tenure in WWE as World Heavyweight Champion and King Booker.
Right.
So it's like now, because there is competition on Wednesday nights that is appealing to a subset of the WWE roster, you're going to maybe see a better product, maybe not now, but maybe in 18 months. Because a lot of these contracts, we may talk about it in the Rumor Roundup, but a lot of contracts are going to be coming up. And people are going to have to make legit decisions like the Revival did, like Brody Lee did.
Sure.
Where they look and they go, you know, maybe not WWE, maybe AEW, or maybe Impact, or New Japan once COVID clears out. Like there's more opportunity now, because for the longest time it was WWE and it was practically nothing else.
Right.
Like you had Ring of Honor with 1,000 people a show.
Yeah, and then you had TNA who weren't paying their guys, so it's like we're
right. They were on TV, and the optics of it was, oh, they're on television, they're great, and it's like, no, they're not. They're
they haven't paid anyone in 2 months.
Yeah,
right. But like now they're about as healthy as ever.
Yeah, and now they
Like-
have the backing and they have money, and that's the thing, and that's going to create
smart.
something great. Is, you know, wrestlers now have somewhere to go, and I don't see it as a war, because I'm entertained by everything. So the more wrestling, the better, as long as it's good wrestling. And
Right.
even AEW has the problem with the storytelling. I think it's very hard to tell a story on television, but yet when you go watch Being the Elite, the stories are great, they're hilarious, and they make sense, and there's foreshadowing. They just need to find a way to transfer that to the actual product.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest issues with them is, and there's nothing wrong with having, you know, things on the side that tell some of their stories, but you have to, and I, you know, I think I said it with one of their like specialty matches, like they didn't, it was either them or Impact, but they didn't explain like what the rules of the match was, and I was like, look, you have to assume that there's at least a section of the audience that's watching on this particular night that has never watched your program before. Tell me why I'm invested in this. Like WWE, they overdo it. I'm not going to deny that. Like, you know, if they're going to give you a, you know, this gauntlet eliminator match, they're going to tell you multiple times what the rules of this match are. Or if there's a new type of match, there's a new this, they're going to beat to death the name of the match and what that match entails. But you're not going to watch that show and not know what's going on. Whereas like that may happen somewhere else. Like, you know, like they may drop like a big spot in a promo on Wednesday night where like if you haven't watched Being the Elite this week or last week, you're going to go, I missed something here. And like, you know, they do need to find a little bit better way. Like, yeah, I thought last night was a really, really good episode. You know, like the main event, like those guys went for it. For me, like that was kind of like a non-preferred, like I don't need to, like and it's not like I'm not comparing it to like CZW Tournament of Death or anything like that, but like I don't need to see guys getting like just popped unprotected in the head. Like it's 2020. I don't need to see unprotected headshots. Like if mistakes happen, but I'm not going to take away that was probably like the best like parking lot match brawl whatever that has ever been seen.
Great is Santana and Ortiz is this tag team that comes over from Impact where they're main eventing pay-per-views. They're in the inner circle. They haven't really done much. They start a feud and now the spotlight's on them because they're main eventing the show. It's not the same people main eventing. And I think that draws interest from wrestling fans.
And can you tell me what before you get to that point? You talk about storytelling and how to tell a story. That entire feud is based on Trent's mom's van.
Right. Right. And like the
that's it.
Like the climax moment was Trent's mom giving the middle finger out the fucking window.
Undertaker.
Right. Like how like that's good. That like the fact she started driving away, stops and just bing. Like that's good. That's good stuff. Like whether the match was like my favorite thing in the entire world, like style wise, it wasn't, but like that's a cool way to go off the show. Some lady in a minivan flipping the bird. Ryan, what were you saying?
Man, Sue is over. I think, as the kids say, AF. No, I just want to cycle back to something that Tim said about 18 months and contracts running out. I think at the other end of that, we're going to see the pipeline starting to dry out for the WWE to tap into things like GCW and other of the larger indies because we're getting out of the COVID sort of not working era, and you're seeing Ring of Honor running. We're seeing the Pure tournament running, grabbing people like Tony Deppen and Wheeler Yuta, some really good indie names. You can't forget about MLW. They're signing folks to contracts.
Jacob
like
Fatu is a huge star.
Huge star. The guy is huge.
Love that
Alex
guy.
Hammerstone or what? Hammerstone, I think, is a huge star. I mean, look, MJF kind of came from that world. So, the WWE is not going to just have the pick of the litter anymore because there's stops along the way where folks are going to start making names for themselves. And MLW captures lightning in a bottle and just creates the right star for the right time. We're going to be talking about them as a real big player here shortly, I believe.
And you got to keep the eye on the partnership with Impact with them. Impact has a TV deal. You can see Jacob Fatu go on there. You can see the Good Brothers go to MLW to draw people into their live shows. So that's something you want to keep a close eye on once COVID's over, is that partnership that was kind of coming off the ground before the world shut down, because I think that's going to be huge for professional wrestling, especially the independent scene that desperately needs talent to go down. Like you can go watch Deonna Purrazzo and Jordan wrestle at an MLW show, and that'd be awesome.
Right. And again, I think the same thing you can look at. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe I'm speculating or hoping, but NWA, AEW, the Thunder Rosa tie-overs, things like that. Like these are things that I want to see because it benefits pro wrestling.
Is it Marty like part Booker and NWA too? It like he's allowed to wrestle at NWA and Ring of Honor, right?
I believe that was right before everything kind of happened.
Yeah, because like there's your connection, there's your bridge. Also, Nick Aldis and Cody have a great relationship.
If the NWA is smart, because like they're not really doing anything in the COVID era, they have to get their talent out there so that like first off they stay ring ready for whenever the world resumes again, but also so that like because I liked what they were doing with like the weekly NWA shows, but then the world stopped, and then so did they. So, if you have a unique opportunity right now where if you can get Thunder Rosa and some of your talent on AEW and some of your talent with, wherever, once they can resume again, because they are coming back. And Charlie said, don't forget NWA is starting back. Absolutely, they will be. But
they
like
did something with Mike Bennett, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like they're doing the Aldis Bennett match at I forget what the show is, but that's this weekend, I think, or it's coming up. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, sometime real soon.
Yeah, I'm not sure when that match is, but like it's smart on them to get their talent names out there so that when whatever their YouTube show is going to be called when the world resumes, that people know who they are, and it'll give more attention to them coming back. So yeah, like that's a great point, guys. Is that WWE can't just assume. Now there will always be people that their ultimate goal is to get to the WWE. Like it just that's
I think
the way
everyone's end game is to wrestle at WrestleMania, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
But once you do it, if you're not happy, like you how much money do you think they threw at Moxley? And he was just like, nah, man, because he's a Shield member. Like your whole company is based around these three guys. One leaves. Now you can't do anything with the Shield. It's like,
right. Then you're going, uh-oh.
Yeah. So they threw stupid money at him. And he's someone who said, I don't care about the money. I want to go have fun wrestling. And I think you want to get to WrestleMania, obviously. Anyone who wrestles wants WrestleMania. But after that, it's how do they keep you or how do they.
Sure.
And that's a big thing, And I think they have the money to throw at people. But I think WWE, we see them start being smarter with their money and investing in the talents that they want to keep rather than just pulling everyone from the indies.
It depends. It depends on when Vince starts to feel threatened. Because right now, Vince is probably looking at AEW or all these other companies as like venture capital. Like they're unproven in his eyes. And like,
well, I think you need another big name to
go,
shift. I think you need another main event talent needs to, and AJ Styles would have been that guy where Vince goes, oh shit.
Right. Or it's enough of the upper mid card guys who go and become stars, who elevate themselves up to that next level. Like what Brody Lee's doing, like what the FTR may do, like all of those talents. If Vince feels threatened, he'll get serious. He'll make it a war again.
And then I know we'll be good again, probably.
Yeah.
But would it though? Like, I think the time of war and competition is done. And that's where I think Triple H has the right mindset of like, play ball together. Like,
yeah, but at the end of the day, competition makes everyone a little bit better, is what I think. Like, I'm friends with a lot of podcasts, but I'll listen to their show and I go, shit, they are doing that better in this part than I am. I need to step my game up. And it's not a direct shot. They can still get along, but competition breeds like a great product because you're going to pick things and you're going to go, oh shit, they're killing me at that market. I got to step this up instead of just thinking, and then, Vince in his mind, he's still the only wrestling company in the world. Like you won't tell
he
Vince
doesn't do wrestling.
No,
Vince
he does
doesn't do
entertainment.
wrestling.
But he
make
does
movies.
He does it, and numbers don't lie. No one's even close to him.
Yeah.
Still, but if a big name, another big name, and you're right, maybe guys like Sami Zayn or Cesaro and Nakamura go over there. Okay, but like I'm saying, a huge name. Like imagine, and it's not gonna happen, but imagine if Brock Lesnar showed up. Imagine if Orton would have signed. Imagine if AJ Styles. Then Vince has to take it.
Oh
serious.
yeah,
because not only did you take Chris Jericho, Moxley, now you're taking another top guy.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, if a legit top guy shows up on Dynamite, then I think things start to change too because, and we've always said on this show that. And other people have said it too. Like Vince McMahon or the McMahons will give every last breath of their being to try and get the WWE to be number one. Like that is their life. Whereas, and this is not a disrespect to Tony Khan or the Bucks or Kenny or Cody, but like, especially with the Khans, because that's the money. That's their meal ticket. The Khans are business people. If 18 months from now, AEW isn't getting over $1 million, or when that TV contract runs up and TNT is like, this hasn't been as great for us as we thought it was going to be.
What if Omega goes to WWE?
Right, and Charlie said, what if Omega or MJF would come over? Like,
what if they get sick of it and they, what if Moxley says, you know what, I want to go make more money again and get the Shield back. So there is two sides of the coin, but right now AEW is so new and everyone seems so happy. It seems like a utopia. Give them another year to fuck more stuff up, and then
Sure. I
you'll
mean,
see
look
that
at
transition.
All Out, and we talked about that a little bit last
Oh,
week. Like
God.
All Out was a dumpster fight. Now they came back with 2 great weeks of TV. Like they took a shitty situation and they made you forget about it pretty quick. But yeah, like it was the first time that I really saw Twitter react poorly to an AEW product. It was bad. So
I
like
laughed the whole time, and it wasn't like good
yeah,
laughs.
no,
It was just like,
it was like
this
I have
is
to
that
laugh so it
bad.
doesn't hurt, you know.
yeah, I spent $60 on this, and I'm laughing at it.
Yeah, I'm thankful that I split that with people, because if I would have spent the full cost on that, I would have been real pissed. But yeah, it's you know, like the cons would if the TV deal doesn't work out, or if AEW isn't really making money at some point, like the cons are going to go, you know what, this isn't smart for us business wise, and they're going to cut that cord. And then what happens to AEW? You know, and it's no disrespect necessarily to what Cody and the Bucks and Kenny are doing, but it's 2 very different scenarios, because you have a wrestling people versus business people, you know, that are running the companies.
I think Tony Khan's having a lot of fun, and I think
He should be right now.
Even if ratings are down a little bit, if Tony Khan's still having a good time, Tony Khan has the money to play.
Yes, but there could, and I'm not saying there will, and again, for the sake of the wrestling business, I hope that this doesn't happen. But there could be a point where, from a business standpoint, it's no longer worth it to continue. Whether you're having fun or not, there's a financial aspect to it that could no longer make it worth the time.
That they're worth more than Vince. So like
They are.
that. So if he wants to take a couple million, $500 million a year, because they're still making money hand over fist. They own a soccer club and a football team, so the profit's always going to be there.
But the reason why, generally speaking, the reason why the rich stay rich / get richer is because when they know when to stop losing money, or you know, like they know when to cut off something that isn't good for them financially. So again, whether that happens with AEW, I have no idea. But I'm saying,
I mean, they signed a 3-year contract.
Sure.
Most of their guys are signed a 3-year contract. Let's see, like I said, you got to give it a year. And like, has it been a calendar year? Yeah, it's been a calendar year now, right?
October, middle of October is their anniversary.
Most businesses that start up, the first year is a wash. You're going to lose money. That's what happens when you start a business. The second and third year is when you have to start turning a profit. And that's going to tell a lot about the company. They're now in year 2. Are they going to turn a profit? Are they going to get more viewers? Are they going to sign more talent to put more butts in the seats when COVID's over? That's what matters.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be a big thing for everybody.
Yeah, especially year 3, because I think what's going to end up happening is, if you're looking at the numbers, the books are going to kind of be cooked, because your projected year 1 is lower because of what COVID is, which means that your year 2 projection, you're going to change that and lower it, because you don't know how long it's going to last. And if we kick out earlier, then we're back to normal and you're exceeding what your projected revenue for the year 2 would be. So
it's like how we forecast the budget at my job, right? So like, obviously this year no one's hitting budget. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's like, next year, is this going to go into next year? Because if it's going to go into next year, you're not going to give us a really high budget to hit, because who's going to hit a 38% budget?
Right.
But if you get back to normal, then you can set those standards, because, okay, you were $600,000 down. This is how you can make it up, because life's back to normal. So
Right.
a lot has to do what happens in these next 2 to 3 months.
Sure. Well, it's like
for
salary
anything to matter
caps,
in wrestling. in
salary caps
2021.
in sports too. I
Yeah.
mean, like, you know, like in hockey, you know, the Eastern Conference Finals about to wrap up. This season's about to go into their final playoff series. But then you start looking ahead to next year. You know, like I know from like my Capitals, like they're letting Braden Holtby, who is their Stanley Cup winning goalie, test the free agent market. Like Alex Ovechkin is going into the final year of his contract. But salary caps are going to come down definitely next year, but then potentially the following year, because if you don't get fans back in the arenas, until let's hypothetically even say halfway through next season. You have an 82 game season. They can get back in at the halfway point. So that still means that, even if 100% capacity, your ownership groups are losing 50% of what they would be hopeful in a season.
And you got to think, not even the fans, too. The vendors is where a lot of these places make their money.
It's
like all the vendors have to rent their spaces. Well, guess who's not paying rent right now?
Mm-hmm.
it's just
so it's looking down the barrel a couple of years is going to be very interesting. But yeah, I mean, the scope of the industry is just so very different between what the Monday night, and that's where everybody's trying to compare like ratings and wars, and it's not even close to the same thing as it was back in the day.